In March 2000, we have two individuals, al-Mihdhar and al-Hazmi, with known connections to suspects of the East African bombing that have now entered the United States. They've been there for over 2 months. The FBI doesn't know that they're in the country. These individuals have not been added to the watch list. Let me ask you, Mr. Rowlands, whose responsibility is it to track and or find these two?
If we don't know that they're in the country, sir?
Correct.
If I understand your question,
it's an easy one.
We would like to have had that information. I accept the fact that someone thought that it was passed, and it would appear, based on what we know now, that perhaps it wasn't. But essentially, our counterparts, the CIA, and a number of different services, both law enforcement and intelligence around the world, with whom we work on a regular basis, if given the opportunity, would track those people.
In the absence of a verification of the transfer of this information, the answer is nobody's in charge. Is that correct? If the FBI does not know, if that information is not verified that it was transmitted to you, then in fact you can't be in charge of tracking these folks.
I agree with that, Senator, but I would also point out that on a regular and sustained basis, because of my interaction with the agency over the years and having a deputy from the agency in my section, I don't want to discount the effort that they make on a daily and regular routine basis to track people that we, the FBI, are in.
1998, the FBI adopted a 5-year strategic plan that established the FBI investigative priorities in a 3-tier system. Tier 1 prioritizes foreign intelligence, terrorist, and criminal activities that directly threaten the national or economic security of the United States. Tier 2 priorities were crimes that affect the public safety or undermine the integrity of American society, such as drugs, organized crime, civil rights, and public corruption. Tier 3 priorities were crimes that affect individuals and property, such as violent crime, car theft, and telemarketing scams. On March 15th, 1999, shortly after Director of Central Intelligence George Tenet asserted the U.S. intelligence community was declaring war on Osama bin Laden and al-Qaeda, FBI headquarters established national-level priorities within its counterterrorism program. Bin Laden and al-Qaeda, along with the bin Laden-allied Egyptian Islamic Jihad and the Gamma Islamiyah, were designated as Priority Group 1 for the FBI's counterterrorism efforts. The Office of the Inspector General review of the al-Hazmi Mihdhar chronology revealed no appreciable shift in resources by the FBI's San Diego field office in response to these changed priorities. We found that prior to September 11, 2001, the actual investigative priority for the San Diego field office was drug trafficking. According to former San Diego Special Agent in Charge William Gore, the highest concentration of FBI agents and resources in San Diego was directed at combating drug trafficking based on the FBI's process and procedures used every year to set priorities in its field offices. He said that white-collar crime was the office's second priority, and violent crime was its third priority. Counterterrorism was only the fourth priority for the San Diego FBI office. The Counterterrorism Center efforts in San Diego were directed primarily at another terrorist organization and related groups not even connected to al-Qaeda. And the majority of San Diego's counterterrorism investigations targeted activities related to the indirect support of terrorism conducted by those groups. We found that the San Diego FBI focused little to no investigative activity on al-Qaeda prior to September 11. San Diego FBI personnel stated to us that they had believed that there was no significant al-Qaeda activity in San Diego based on information from their sources and investigative activities. The former supervisor of the San Diego Counterterrorism Squad explained their job at the field office level was to shake the tree and see what fell out in relation to potential terrorism activities in their area. Although San Diego agents assigned to counterterrorism conceded they had received little to no specific training concerning bin Laden or al-Qaeda, they asserted that al-Qaeda did not have a significant presence in San Diego prior to September 11th. Yet, al-Qaeda was present in San Diego, unbeknownst to the FBI. Nawaf al-Hazmi and Khalid al-Mihdhar resided in San Diego. Unfortunately, the San Diego agents were not focusing on al-Qaeda. Even though FBI headquarters had designated al-Qaeda as the #1 counterterrorism priority, the San Diego FBI was not attempting to identify individuals that were associated with al-Qaeda. Since September 11th, many San Diego agents have been moved from other squads and assigned to counterterrorism. Significantly, the San Diego office opened a large number of intelligence investigations on potential al-Qaeda subjects immediately after September 11th. Obviously, the focus and priorities dramatically changed after September 11th. But there is no reason to believe the al-Qaeda presence in San Diego began only after September 11th. If San Diego's focus on counterterrorism and al-Qaeda had occurred earlier in San Diego, there would have been a greater possibility, although no guarantee, that al-Hazmi and al-Mihdhar's presence in San Diego may have come to the attention of the FBI before September 11th. However, it is important to note that San Diego's allocation of resources before September 11th and the lower priority it gave to the counterterrorism program were not atypical of FBI field offices before September 11th. In an Office of the Inspector General September 2002 audit report entitled A Review of the FBI's Investigation Counterterrorism Program, Threat Assessment, Strategic Planning, and Resource Management, we found that although the FBI has developed an elaborate multi-layered strategic planning system over the past decade, the system has not adequately established priorities or effectively allocated resources to the counterterrorism program. Furthermore, the Office of the Inspector General report found that resources were not allocated consistent with the FBI's priorities, particularly at the field office level, because of the lack of management controls in the FBI's complicated and people-intensive strategic planning process. Instead of allocating resources based on FBI priorities, field offices allocated resources primarily based on previous caseloads in the field office. According to the report, prior to September 11th, the Bureau devoted significantly more special agent resources to traditional law enforcement activities such as white-collar crime, organized crime, drug and violent crime investigations than to domestic and international terrorism investigations. For example, in 2000, twice as many FBI agents were assigned to drug enforcement than to counterterrorism. Thus, the San Diego's office allocation of resources was not different from many other FBI field offices, despite the stated priorities of the FBI.